under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, we're going to need to vote on which method of voting we're going to be accepting. You want to do a ballot, show of hands, or standing? Any suggestions?
I move we do ballot.
Okay. Any paper for that?
We talked about it and thought,
Is there people?
oh yeah, there is over there.
The whole
If
stack.
we vote, this really isn't even a voting on.
Well, depends what we call
So if there is some over there.
Okay. Any other suggestions? Okay, and then as a reminder, any result in voting is an advisory to the board. It's not binding, so a lot of this will be recommendations. And we need to, the reading and approval of minutes, please.
Okay, I'm going to read the minutes from April 15th, 2014. Town Board Chairperson Carolyn Opitz called the meeting to order at 7:07 p.m. There were 24 residents and 2 non-residents present. The Pledge of Allegiance was recited. Carolyn Opitz introduced Board Supervisor Norm Kummer, Clerk Denise Bard, and Treasurer Ann Yunser. Clerk Bard read the minutes from the annual meeting on April 16th, 2013. Bruce Weinman and Bernice Mercer moved to approve the minutes of April 16th, 2013. The motion passed by a hand vote. Clerk Bard gave the financial report for 2013. The total cash on hand at 1/1/2013 was $395,030.43. Total taxes collected, $2,812,695.23. Intergovernmental revenues were $171,931.28. Licenses and permits were $6,844.52. Public charges for services were $279.61. And miscellaneous revenues were $71,440.44. The total revenues for 2013 were $3,063,191.08. For the expenses, town government expenses were $122,860.72. Public safety was $147,490.07. Public works was $439,464.59. Parks, recreation, and planning was $48,779.64. Taxes paid to others totaled $2,117,985.99. So the total expenses in 2013 were $2,903,343.11. All funds balance on December 31st of 2014 was $554,879.40. Should have been 2013. Where do your tax dollars go? In 2013, the town of McMillan kept just $569,591, or 16% of the total taxes collected. And this amount included nearly $80,000 in library fees. Denise mentioned that payroll expenses in 2013 were higher than in prior years because all employees were paid their fourth quarter earnings in December of 2013. In prior years, this payroll expense was paid out in January of the following year. If we continue this practice, the payroll in 2014 will subsequently be lower. Gary Franz asked about the consultant fee of $6,584 for the fire department. Kevin Schmidtke explained that Brian Hopperdiesel was hired to bring the bylaws, the SOGs, and the SOPs up to date for the fire department. This was the least expensive way to bring the fire department in compliance with the state. Gary Franz asked why the utilities went up so much for the fire department and the public works. Ann explained that in 2012, the phone bill was classified under communications. and in 2013, we classified it as utilities. So the difference is primarily related to the phone and internet bills. Vince Weber and George Durkis moved to accept the 2013 annual financial report as presented. The motion carried by a hand vote. Carolyn mentioned that Rick Dorr has left the town board and he is now county supervisor. The next annual meeting will be April 14th, 2015. Fall Fest will be September 6th, 2014. The tire recycling event will be April 26th at Pankratz Trucking on Highway 10. We need 4 volunteers from the town. Each resident must present a red card for proof of residence. Callaway Road Project, finally the contract has been signed and that road will be dedicated to us. Jeff Hill did pay the $1,600. George Durfus and Dieter Voss moved to adjourn at 7:33 p.m. The motion carried.
We get a motion to accept the minutes?
I have a question. Paul Mansell, M212 Man Street. Callaway, the shoulders weren't on as of a week ago, is that been accepted by the town?
Did we accept, we didn't accept Callaway yet, did we? No.
Yes, no?
No.
No.
It stated in the report that it was dedicated over the minutes stated it was dedicated to the town accepted. In the minutes she read, that would have to be corrected, correct?
I did say, finally, the contract has been signed and that road will be dedicated to us. It has not been.
Because it was questioned, you know, whether we're collecting taxes on and maintaining it, or whether it was dedicated to maintaining it, and we charged for plowing.
So how should I have worded that a year ago? What was,
I didn't get, what was it, will be
I wrote,
dedicated?
finally, the contract has been signed and that road will be dedicated to us.
That hasn't happened yet, so no action has been taken.
That would have to be inspected before it's dedicated.
Correct. Yep.
So the signing of the contract never happened, is that correct?
I believe so, yeah.
You still looking for a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Who made the motion?
Do we want to
George.
approve if we know they're wrong?
Well, we got to get into discussion on this.
Who made the motion?
Inspected.
George Durkis made the motion. Second?
I'll second.
Mary Jane Swenson made the second on motion to approve the minutes. Any discussion? What would you like changed?
Shouldn't that be
You
put
can't,
in
you
with
can't
corrections?
approve, you can't approve those minutes until they're corrected,
Right,
unless
with
you add the
corrections.
corrections to them, and then ask for a vote.
What corrections would you like to make on those minutes?
On the Callaway statement,
Denise, how would you like to rewrite them?
Well, should I just say, Callaway Road, Jeff Hill did pay the $1,600? That I know to be true.
Contract has not been signed.
Has not been inspected.
I'll have it say the contract was not signed and the road has not been inspected.
So it'll read again.
If I say Callaway Road Project, the contract has not been signed and the road has not been inspected. Jeff Hill did pay the $1,600.
Is that acceptable? Larry? Murphy?
I think we need
it
to,
hasn't, well, I didn't mean to interrupt whomever was speaking, but it hasn't been dedicated to the town, so that terminology should be in there also. The road has not been inspected and or dedicated to the town yet.
Okay. And the road was not inspected or dedicated to the town.
Dorothy?
You can make your motion, but you do have to add in there for the minutes next year with corrections, so that we know
Right.
it's noted.
Couldn't you just word it, will be accepted as soon as it has been inspected
What,
and
road?
contract signed? You know, she has a written, will be accepted.
I think the way that was said by Larry and other people, that would make sense. That just clarifying what's been done till now. That's kind of what you were doing in the minutes, just saying what had been done to that point, and it wasn't all right, so you're gonna say what,
That it
just
wasn't,
correct that and then
yeah,
take care of
that
it.
it has not been done.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to amend the motion, George?
Yeah. Have Denise should read it one more time so
Okay.
everybody understands what it is.
Callaway Road Project, the contract has not been signed and the road was not inspected or dedicated to the town. Jeff Hill did pay the $1,600.
Is that acceptable?
Thanks.
Is that acceptable? Okay. New motion?
Yeah, I'll amend my motion to whatever it is.
Accept the minutes with corrections?
Sure, that'll work.
Second? Mary Jane? You want to do a ballot vote on this, or just raise your hand to approve or disapprove? Okay. Just, show of hands for ayes on the motion to accept the minutes. Nay? Motion passed. I don't think we need to do a count on that one. Okay, now we're gonna go into reviewing the 2014 annual financial report, and that will be Ann.
Okay, before we start, after we sent out the newsletter, we did find, some corrections that needed to be made in the annual report, and we have corrected copies out, as you were coming in the door, so imagine most of you have the corrected copies now. First, I'm gonna go over the corrections. At the very top of the page where it says balance on hand, 1/1/2014 general checking, that, we changed that from 62 cents to 61 cents. I think that was just a typographical error. And this was done in an Excel program which adds that up as you put it in. So the total cash on hand for 1/1/2014 is 40 cents instead of 41 cents. Then on page 2, under public safety, the communications has been changed to 0. We had the telephone and the internet in there, and as we read in the minutes, last year we switched those over to utilities. So they're included in the utilities. Also, under the buildings and grounds, we took, the septic was included in that number, so we took the septic out of that number and put it into the utilities. And then on the third page at the very bottom, total expenses for 2013, it was 2013, it should be 2014, which we changed. So those are the corrections that we made. Are there any questions about those? Okay, the total cash on hand on 1/1/2014 was $554,879.40. The revenues, the tax collections were $2,869,674.62. Intergovernmental revenue was $266,823.40. Licenses and permits was $7,167.29. Public charges for services was $270.66. Miscellaneous revenue was $114,152.51, and long-term debt proceeds was $140,000. Total revenues for 2014 was $3,398,088.48. Expenses, town government was $130,601.38. Public safety fire department total was $303,020.32. EMS and ambulance was $45,228.09. Public Works was $932,975.24. This Parks, Recreation, Planning, Animal Control, we also had highway building renovation in there, was $107,359.34. Taxes paid to others, $2,166,190.47. Total expenses for 2014, $3,711,226.99. Beginning funds balance on 1/1/2014 was $554,879.40. Total revenues, we added in, total expenses, we subtracted out. December 30th, 2014, all funds balance was $241,740.89. Where your tax dollars go, McMillan's share of the taxes we collected was $573,338, which again was 16% of what we collected. Outstanding debt obligations, $140,000 for Citizens State Bank of Loyal for the ladder truck that the fire department purchased. Fire department volunteer fund activity had an ending balance on December 31st of 2014 of $43,264.30. Park fund activity ending balance on December 31st, 2014 was $15,039. Does anybody have any questions about the financial report? Yes.
I have one, just a clarification that on the first page under intergovernmental, the local road improvement program, 96,000, was that from the state for Stott?
That was the grant for the Stott Road project. Any other questions? Gary?
I'll get back to my utilities again, because they spent so much supposedly energy efficient lighting and all this stuff. Well, the utilities at the public works went up $2,000 some dollars from the year before, yes.
Well,
Which is like a 44% increase. I mean, I think personally, all our utilities and all these buildings is awful high. I mean, $6,000 a year for buildings that aren't occupied most of the time.
okay, well, I can tell you two things. And this one you all know, that septic has just really gone up a lot. And we're also emptying the septic around here more than we did last year or the year before. But the septic fees have gone up quite a bit. Remember how cold it was last winter? You're on a payment plan where you pay a certain amount every month. Well, that went up for all three of the buildings out here this year because it was so cold last year and they used so much energy. And then this year your payment plan went up. So, 2014 payment plan went up. So that's part of it right there. There's two things I know.
Yeah, but only the public works went up that much. The hall and the fire department's utilities actually went down.
Oh,
And also, is there an advantage to having the monthly payment plan versus paying your bills every month? You know, as they're read like most people do?
yeah.
I mean, are you paying behind and gaining, or are you paying ahead and losing?
Well, it gets adjusted once a year. So, you know, if you've got too much money there, then your payments go down the next year, which I think this year they're going down a little bit, because we didn't have quite such a bad winter this year. Yeah, Joe?
The only thing, advantage of that, excuse me, the advantage of that is for budgeting, that you know, you can see what your payments are gonna be for that, for this year.
Right.
And we know the fire department is always high, because you guys have to keep so many things plugged in over there, am I correct?
Yes.
Well,
It's
see,
all
and
money.
it's hard to tell because, you know, the utilities are listed together, so,
Mhm.
you know, we don't know what's for lights and what's for heat. Yeah, I realize you got a lot of stuff plugged in.
We could maybe try and break those down next year. Like I said before, we don't want this report to get too terribly long, and we want the print big enough that you can all read it. And we're kind of getting down to the bottom of that last page. So, but we can maybe try next year and see if we can break the utilities down, because I do have them broken down, and I can give you numbers if you like. I don't think we've got them broken down for the, public works, but we do for the fire department.
I mean, I could go through the
Yeah, we could,
exercise.
and we could do that for next year to break it down, so.
Mm-hmm. Larry?
On that profit and loss detail paper that I requested from you 2 months ago and I received, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pumpings. And the majority of those were fire department holding tanks. And each one of those costs were averaged out to $125 per pumping. Why so much and so often at the fire department to pump the tanks?
Part of it is, and we also have a problem over at the, other one over at the, what is it, Public Works over there, is that at times the risers are lifting up in the springtime of the year, and we are getting seepage in. And really, at that time of the year, we can't correct anything until that happens, and that's where the bulk of that has been coming from, is groundwater.
Yeah, but on the pump, I mean, that's probably true, but on the profit and loss thing, it only states the fire department in here, it doesn't state anything about the town garage.
Well, I'm just saying that we have problems with the
As I say,
systems
we're
also.
having that problems in all 3 locations, where in the spring, we're getting groundwater in there, and they're having to come out, because the alarms are going off. You know, we kind of thought, was it last year, we thought we had a leak,
Mhm.
because
Because
they
we thought
were,
about actually getting prices to tear it all out and start
Yeah.
over.
and then, you know, and then it quit raining so much, and then it quit filling up so fast,
Mhm.
so there's kind of a problem, and it's kind of with all 3 of them.
And how do you correct it?
So we have 4 septic systems that we maintain,
Hmm?
correct?
No,
We got the one over here, one over
Oh,
here, and one over
yeah.
there, right?
is it one of them? Yeah.
You've got 4, one
guess
from the
you're
town
right.
hall, pavilion, town
Yeah.
garage, and fire department.
Yep, there should be
It's
4.
4 septic systems.
Mhm.
Have then been inspected in the last millennium or whatever.
We actually have 5, Ronnie? Where's the other one?
There's one right out here.
That's 4.
We got the
One,
pavilion, the
two.
town hall,
3,
and up there,
4, 5. There's one in the garage, there's one in the new garage.
oh, okay.
That's 5.
There's 2 over there then, okay.
Good Lord. They should be able to be sealed, I would think. Well, yeah.
So like I said, have them been, if we're getting groundwater in them, there must be a crack in the system.
Because the risers are, the frost is heating the risers up and the surface water's going in. We had them, when the spring thaw came, I think 2 days, the one filled up.
Yeah, it's
They're
not
all
because,
holding tanks. They're all
Yeah.
holding tanks. They have to be.
These out here are steel ones yet, aren't they?
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure they are.
I have no
Because this
idea.
building was built in what, 72?
In the early seventies,
Right. What's the next?
Those are steel tanks out
They
here, I
should be
believe,
sealed
because there's
on
steel
there.
covers
If
on
you're
these tanks.
leaking a bubble, then do it on a riser and seal it. So,
Oh,
yeah.
they do.
You know, so you get a
Shouldn't
bubble.
Why can't they have steel covers on a cement tank
So you
now?
have to get a bubble.
We got cement covers, the new ones, the pavilions got them.
what do we have out here there?
I believe these are steel tanks out here by the town hall.
Okay. So what's the recommendation? What would you like to advise? You want inspection? I mean, what would you like us to do?
I would suggest getting somebody in and digging around it and, trying to fix it, if, you know, that's what's causing it to heave up.
That'll cost more than.
No, it costs more than pumping.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
have
but
to
it's
pump
year-
all the
it's-
time.
It's year after year after year, they'll let it, fix the problem once. I can't imagine that
exactly.
with all the rules that you have to have at your house for a
Mhm.
septic tank leaking, they'd be on your case like ugly.
Well, I don't think that they're leaking. I think that the water's going up over the top is what's
That's-
happening
that's
when that
leaking
frost
still.
is pushing up that tank. The frost pushes up the cover and then the water runs in. Am I correct, Dave?
And
No, they leak where it comes in.
Right, the riser.
You
Where
got
that-
a riser on there and it's
Yeah.
It was,
Okay.
That should be
it was a
sealed.
horrible piss poor system when it was made, and there's nothing you can do to correct it. If you fix it, the next year, frost heaves it up and leaks again.
Yeah.
Spend money and money and money fixing it, and it just breaks down every year because it was a piss poor system when they developed it.
Mhm.
And they're still selling it to us, so.
And we keep buying it.
Keep pumping.
Yeah, that's about it.
But I mean, you can spend all that money fixing them, and next year, spring, it'll leak in again.
Because it'll push it right back up. Yeah.
Unless you can figure out how to stop frost, it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I can't. Any other questions on the, or comments on the financial report? Can we get a motion to accept?
I make a motion to accept the financial report for 2014.
Second?
I'll second.
Mary? Any more discussion? Can we take a vote on that? All in favor? Raise your hands, please. Opposed? Motion passed. We do have a visitor, Mr. Rick Brewer is here from the county, and he would like to speak to us a little bit. So, Rick, floor is yours.
Hello, I'm the county supervisor for the part of town of McMillan, and also Alan Kraus is shares the town of McMillan as county supervisor. We like to come out to the towns every now and then and ask if there's any questions or give any reports on what our duties are. As far as the holding tanks go, because I'm on land conservation zoning, to answer some of those questions, that, there was some comment about public and private stuff like that. They're both governed under the same body, and it's a complaint-driven process. The county doesn't go out and look for septic problems or anything like that. So if there is a call that goes into the county, by law, they have to come out and investigate it. In this particular case, you can get somebody in to privately fix it or do whatever you want, as long as, because they have to report also back to the county. And if there's any real serious violations or anything, then they'll come out and recommend a new system or whatever. But it's pretty common that they lift up and the water runs in. That doesn't mean that sewage is going to be running out and contaminating the ground. It just means at this time of the year you end up pumping a lot more. That's pretty common thing that some of the questions that happen out there with home systems. Public safety, I'm on the public safety board also, or committee also. And that's a big issue in our area because we're so far away from the county seat. Maynard Tremelling, myself, John Vandal, and a couple other supervisors in the rural areas are really pushing hard to try to get more police coverage in our areas. We've been working real hard with Stratford and Spencer, and with the sheriff's department, because they all train together. They've been backing up the Marathon County Sheriff's Department very well, and the working relationship is getting much better amongst them. There's always been some questions here and other places about, the cost sharing of those police departments and the response time, because sometimes depending on where they are at any given time, it could be 20 to 2 minutes to 40 minutes away if there's an accident up on 29 or whatever. So Sheriff Parks has been very active about working with Corey Schiller and Bauer over in Stratton and Spencer with the Sheriff's Department, and making sure that when we call, dispatch also calls those two officers or offices, and they have been responding to McMillan and Oak Plain and Day and stuff like that, as well as the Sheriff's Department. Some of the other questions I've been getting about public safety is, in an emergency, because you hear one week I was up there with dispatch, and that's when one of the banks got robbed. Okay, so everything is, all the officers are up there trying to take care of a bank robbery. Well, who's taking care of our areas? And that's where Colby and Stratford and Spencer and stuff really have to step up, and they've been doing a very good job with that. There's been some issues with the dispatch service up there, and that's going to be one of the we're going to spend a lot of money to fix that. Several $1 million is the capital improvement to upgrade some of the software and different things like that for public safety. And that also goes to our local fire departments and things like that. Some of the areas where we don't have cell phone coverage, public safety becomes an issue. And we're looking at spending about $1 million for power in the Hamburg area. That doesn't help us any, but with some of the new dispatch software that's coming out, hopefully we can eliminate some of the problems we have with our system that we have here in Spencer and Colby and stuff also. So those issues are being addressed, they're being looked at. I went for a ride one night with our K-9 unit, and I was gone with them for 6 hours, and my stipulations were we weren't going to make any arrests unless there were just traffic violations. We made 8 arrests, and out of 8 arrests, every single vehicle had drugs in it. Every single vehicle. From heroin to crack cocaine, methamphetamines, prescription drugs, synthetic marijuana. So when we hear we have a drug problem in Marathon County, we have a serious drug problem in Marathon County. And it's tough to fight it. How much money do you dedicate toward just the one problem, and where do you take the money away from in order to continue fighting, just the drug issues and stuff. So that brings us to the jail. Our jail's full, and I didn't realize this. We house 267 inmates. Up there is what our capacity is, somewhere in that area. A day, every single day. From Thursday night to Friday night, we ship inmates out to different counties. We empty out about 75 to 80 beds on Thursday night to Friday morning, so that we can arrange, we can have room to bring the people in over the weekend, so we can arraign them on Monday morning. Sounds like a lot of people, but over here we don't get to hear that, unless people like myself come on and talk about it. So public safety is a pretty big issue, and one of the things we've been talking about and it's gonna take a lot of talk because it's very controversial, and that's public safety districts. Because none of us can afford to have our own police departments, none of us, and it's getting more and more difficult to have our own fire departments and just be an identity by ourselves. So, in the next 5-10 years, you're probably gonna see public safety districts where, you know, however it gets laid out, you know, where there's gonna be cost sharing, you know, among townships, villages, and stuff like that to help with the cost sharing, because, you know, we get 16, you said you get 16% of our tax money that we bring in here. The county gets 2%. We have an annual budget up there of about $170 million to run the county. And that's about 2% of all the taxes that are collected in Marathon County. The rest of it goes to state and federal government. And, you know, the things that are mandated by the state would be, you know, like the libraries, public safety, the healthcare system, the living facility that we have up there, and different things like that. So money gets tight. The county was able to, I think it lowered its, you know, 1 cent this year, so it's $5.16. And it's been pretty steady like that for about the last 5 or 6 years. And next year it may not be able to stay there. You know, capital improvements coming up. I don't want to say it's a wish list, but it's things that need to be addressed that they talked about actually the last couple of months of money that, let me just pick it up here. The county administrator talked about, well, what do we have to spend money on? What are projects that are out there that are slated to be done? There's Mount View Nursing Home remodeling project that's mandated by the state. It's not mandated that we remodel it, but we have to hold certain standards, and we have to have a facility. $13.8 million that comes to the county board today. We got postponed for a month. That's all money that we would have to borrow as a county, and to do that, we sell bonds. And we pay the bonds back over a period of time. The aquatic therapy pool, $5 million. The courthouse expansion to accommodate the courts. What that means is the state's going to come in eventually someday because of our amount of turnover of inmates and say, you know, we need more judges. And we don't have a say in that. They give us a judge. They give us 2 judges. We have to have room for those. $38.2 million for remodeling and that. The courthouse expansion to accommodate just to upgrade the jail facility. $23.9 million. $10 million for the UW residential hall that the county owns and you guys own, but it's been built, you know, in the 60s, and you know it needs to be remodeled, but we can't afford to do it. These are all things that we've been saying no to over the last years, but eventually the money has to come. Yeah, where it comes from, I don't know. Hamburg Tower, $1 million. Something that has to come very soon, a $15 million project over by Marathon City, and that's going to be for a new highway shop, because if you remember last year, the highway shop burned down, and there isn't one right now. So everything's being housed, you know, at different locations and outside and stuff like that. Public safety software, $2.5 million. Land records, which is on hold, and that's going to be your signs, your public addressing and stuff like that. A couple $1 million for that, you know, because when you change our signs out here, we do our rural addressing, everything gets changed. Every record of the courthouse, all the public deeds, everything that goes through the courthouse gets changed. It's a very large problem, and you know, we've just been putting Band-Aids on it. it's not in the future, we were gonna look at it this year, but it's just so expensive. And so time consuming, we're gonna wait on stuff like that. The airport, facility needed some upgrades in order to stay in compliance with the federal government. That we approved today of $2.5 million. We'll be selling bonds for that. So that's kind of the public safety, that's the public safety part of it. And that's just the tip, that's a pretty small portion of some of the money that gets spent through the county on public safety and different things. So eventually these projects are gonna have to be done, there'll be bonding sold and things like that. And Marathon County has the highest rating for a financial rating that they can have. So they can borrow at a good rate, and it doesn't cost the taxpayers as much money when they do that. But this money that we have to borrow to make the payments has to come out of the general fund every year. So that means, when we borrow this kind of money, we have to take it from someplace else, the highway department or whatever, to make these other arrangements. No different than what's going to happen here eventually, with capital improvements and different things like that. We have I don't know how many people know it, but Marathon County owns a landfill, a solid waste management facility. Town of McMillan doesn't utilize that. They have a contract, a different type of contract that they go through. But that's also something that Marathon County owns, and that's self-sustaining. That's one of the things that actually pays for itself. And I sit on that board, and in the next year I'm gonna try to find out and try to work on why aren't all the townships in Marathon County involved in that landfill, because we own it, we pay for it, and we should be able to afford to use it, so maybe that's something that we can look at as well. One of the biggest things coming up is it's going to affect every single person in this room, everybody in the county that owns land, and that's opening up Chapter 17. Chapter 17 is our zoning codes. The zoning codes were in effect over 40 years ago in the state of Wisconsin and adopted over 40 years ago in Marathon County. And up to this point, if the township adopted county zoning, there was no way to ever get out of it, period. And when this discussion came about, I was very interested in it. I was actually on the board here at the time. And so over the last 2 or 3 months, in land conservation and zoning, we put together a couple of resolutions. And what we're doing and what we did is we formed a task force to completely rewrite the zoning code so it's easier for everybody to understand. We're going to redo exactly how it's written so that you can go on the internet or you can get the book, and it'll have hyperlinks and different things in there. So if you want to put a shed up or you want to do something else, you know exactly how it's done. But the most important thing one of the most important things that this does is we're going to no longer lock people in forever. This project is going to take us about 18 months. We have a task force of 12 individuals that are on it. Some of them have county zoning, some of them have town zoning, and some of the people are in an area that have no zoning at all. And those are the options that we have for zoning. Town McMillan has county zoning. Well, if we can get this done before the next election, before spring of the next year, because we want to have it done before the next building cycle starts. And so we're going through every single line, every single page of the zoning code, Chapter 17, and making it more friendly, usable, getting rid of some of the stuff because it hasn't been looked at in 40 years, and there's this crazy stuff in there that needs to come out, and new modern things have to go in, And so that's a huge project. We're doing that, and when that goes to the county board next spring, at that time, every single township will have the ability to opt out of county zoning and have their own zoning, like some townships do, or have no zoning at all, which they're, at that point, they're only governed by the township and the federal laws, the state and federal water, shoreline zoning laws. So there's a huge change in that's gonna be coming up. So that's gonna be something that this town, all town boards, and I've been going to all the townships and talking to them about it, that they really wanna start looking at it and start getting their board members involved with and things like that of what type of zoning do you want? How do you want to govern your county? Because it's not Marathon County zoning code, it's your zoning code. It's each town, and each town can adopt whatever they need, but it's huge. It hasn't been done. It hasn't been touched in over 40 years, and it's a big project, and I think it's, out of everything that we talk about, everything we do, the people that own the land pay all the taxes, there's $170 million, and the 16% you guys get. So it's very, very important that if you have any questions or you want to talk about things, we're going to have public hearings. We've had a few of them already. We had six of them already to date, and we'll be having more and more as we go on. Every month, the meetings that we have up in Wausau are open to the public, so if anybody wants to come and sit in and see what we're talking about or what's in the zoning code, on the Marathon County website, we started a web page specifically for that task force. So you can go on there and look and see what the minutes are, what the agendas are going to be, what we're going to be talking about for the next month, and stuff. That we're taking it a piece at a time, and every time we get done with the critical part, we take it to the county board and say, guys, this is what you're looking at, because all 38 members of the county board have to answer to their citizens like I do. I represent a little over 4,000 people in our area, in my area. So, you know, I want to know what Old Plain wants, and I want to know what McMillan might be, you know. Some places want to stay strictly rural and agricultural, and some like us here, we don't have that option. We have the city of Marshfield, and we have some rural and stuff like that. So huge changes coming up as far as zoning and different things in the county. So if there's any other questions that somebody might have, I can answer some stuff. Things I don't know, I won't. I can find out for you. So yeah,
on public safety, how is County E going to be done, and how is Eldon, Scott, and Drake going to be hammered, and is it going to be patrolled, or we just let it go wild? You know?
That's a good question. Well, that always causes the problem, and it's going to cause a problem. We know that here. You know, unfortunately, we don't have the ability to post the roads like I would like to do. Because if we could actually put weight limits on Stott and you know, in our north and south roads, we could eliminate that problem. We have been talking, and not only myself, but Mayor Tremelian, you know, about making sure that we have extra patrol in the area for the drivers and the speeders and the weight people, because it's really going to increase the traffic on our road. I truly believe there's not going to be money coming from the county to help us repair our roads. That's just not part of the program. That doesn't happen. I don't know if that probably doesn't answer your question completely, but I'm telling you, Ronnie, what you already know. It's not, you know, we wanted Highway E done. Highway E's getting done, and it's going to cost us a little bit to have that. You know, we have to suffer a little bit this summer to get it through it. So there's a lot of traffic out there. Okay.
the county is gonna have an official route, another route, correct? They're gonna
Yes.
post that.
Right, yes, that'll be posted, that for the truck traffic and different things like that, that'll be posted, and that'll probably be coming out of Stratford down to 97. Going to the west side, there isn't anywhere, 98, is it 98 that comes out of Spencer? You know, that's an awful long ways away, so there's gonna be people sneaking through, there's no doubt about it, and, you know, hopefully we can, the town board and the chairman will, you know, help with calling up the sheriff's department, saying, you know, we really like a patrol out here, this is what we're seeing, and, you know, pictures don't hurt, guys. You know, pictures don't lie. If you see something that's happening a lot, you know, take the pictures, get it to someone, and, start your list of complaints, because it's not gonna be good, and they're gonna hammer the roads. You know, it's like the farm thing right now. You know, that's another issue that we've been talking about a lot. You know, a lot of farmers are backed into a corner with this. They can only spread their manure they have a very short period of time to do this. So the equipment gets bigger, and the local roads really suffer, you know, because they're not built for 127,000 pound pieces of equipment and all this kind of stuff. And you know, until we can come up with a way that the county and the state is willing to put money into the local infrastructure, you know, we're kind of stuck with what we have. You know, if you see an issue on your roads, there was a gentleman fined last week, or whatever it was, $6,000. He had a bare tractor, didn't have a piece of equipment hooked on it. He knew he was wrong. He called the town, and the town said, no, the roads are posted. And he took it on the roads anyway, you know, to get to a field to do some disking, and they picked him up, and it was a $6,000 fine, you know, and you know, we got phone calls, boy, what's the county doing? What the hell? You know, we're not supposed to farm anymore. No, that's not the case. The roads are posted. These are the laws, and you know, what are we going to do? So the counties, you know, obviously their stand is, you know, they're going to try to protect the town roads, because you guys are paying for these town roads. It's a real tough line. It's a tough line. And, you know, we don't want to, you know, we certainly won't discourage farming, but everybody's got to follow the rules too. So $6,000 fine for an empty tractor is pretty hefty. Pretty hefty fine.
Anybody have any questions for Rick?
Okay. Took up enough of your time. Yeah, no problem. You guys ever want me to come back and you got questions about something?
I think we'll have a lot of questions for you when it comes to this county zoning. I think we're gonna have a
and that's good. And one of the good things is John Brzezowski's also on this committee. I chair the committee, John is on it, and some other people. And anytime you want us here, I'll bring Dean or any of the people from county zoning down with me. We'll have an educational or informal meeting to talk about whatever you want, because it's 100% open. I mean, we want the input from the public.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Mr. Dave Swenson, we'd like to get a highway report from you.
Just a brief review of what we did last year. We got approximately 51 miles of road total. 17 of that 51 miles is blacktop, and the rest is chip seal and gravel. Projects that were completed in 2014 were Turtle Ridge, Meadow Avenue, Candlewood, Red Hawk, Deer Run, Edgewood, and Ruby. Those were chip sealed. We applied approximately $15,000 worth of calcium chloride on the gravel roads. That's been a pretty much of a standard figure from one year to the next. Base course is needed throughout the township, as the budget allowed. We did some wedging on Stott Avenue from Elm Street to County Trunk C. And we did the crack sealing as needed, and that was approximately $18,000 last year. The big project, of course, was the Stott Avenue project from County Trunk C to Oak Lane Road. I think originally that bid came in at like $379,000. The board voted not to take it at that point in time, and it, I think, was delayed a couple cycles. It ended up last year at $415,000. So by waiting, we spent that much extra money. The other issue that we have on Stod, all our bridges are inspected by the county, and the Stott Avenue Bridge did not pass inspection, so it's been posted at 20 ton, and that will be inspected yearly from now on. And if it deteriorates from one year to the next, that 20-ton limit could go down. Already we've got garbage trucks turning around on Stod because you can't cross it. Dump trucks are not supposed to cross it, as well as farm machinery. The cost share on that is an 80-10-10 split, so it's 80% of the cost, which they presently estimate at $600,000 plus for that bridge, will be federal money, 10 state, county, and 10 McMillan. The funding cycle for that project is already out to 2020, so it's 5 years down the road. I think for this next year, we have a couple projects. We have bids on Drake Avenue for an upgrade, some culvert replacement, crack sealing, base course throughout the township where needed, and that's probably a result of the winter process and the heating and thawing. As long as we have a group here, I'd like to reiterate the fact that it's against the law if anybody contracts for the snow plowing. You can't push it across the road. It's not allowed by state statute. We've tried to reiterate that over the years. Try to keep that snow on your own property.
Did we have a problem with that much this last year, or not too bad?
We had several instances where Pat had mentioned it, yeah, and he knows who they are. I believe we did write some letters to individuals that we knew, some of them contracts, so we don't know who plows their snow, but can't be pushed across the road. And that's universal. That doesn't matter whether it's in the city or the county or the township. Just a reminder that the tire recycling is Saturday. That'll be at Pomfret's Trucking on Highway 10 West. First 8 car tires or passenger tires are free. Anything more than that, I believe it was published in the Shopper's Guide. And that's pretty standard. I believe for regular car tires it's $1 extra, and for tractor tires it's more than that. We worked that last year along with the other township, Pat Weigel, Rod Bauer, myself, Mike Stockheimer, and Mike Martin worked at the tire recycling last year, and it just seems like it gets more and more. I don't know if everybody's taking the Friends tires, but these are, you know, your tax dollars at work. I believe it takes at least about $10,000 to $12,000 a year out of recycling, out of Northwest Recycling, to get those tires. That being said, we don't want them thrown in the ditches because that creates a problem also. So, anybody else got any questions?
Dave, Larry, see if we're on 341 Elm Street, how many bridges do we have in our township? Is it 7 or is it 8?
What did you say, guys?
How many bridges
Major bridges?
do we have in our township?
Oh, we got more than that. Sorry.
Well, it was on E, stop to
Yeah, but we've got.
Land Use Center. I mean, if you're talking about the river,
What are you talking,
Our
bridges?
township roads have how many bridges on them? We got one on Stott, we got one on Pine, we got one by Chucky Hardinger's, right, on Stott going south,
You got one in Galvin.
yeah.
There's one in East McMillan. One on Stodds, south of Man,
There's one on, going towards the old dump.
and we're keeping track.
it's whatever
Seven?
you,
Okay.
it's whenever you determine a bridge, you know. It's
Yeah,
not
right.
ever over big culverts.
Right, some of them are big arch culverts
Yeah.
too.
So have we been,
Actually, we got two. We've got one down just south of C on Galvin. Those are culverts, and those were repaired this last year. We cemented the bottoms.
or have we been, or are we going to set money aside to designate for bridge repair in the future, or have we done this in the past?
We have never had a bridge project at that large of a number that we've had to do that I believe, that I can remember. The Stott Avenue Bridge, I'm told, was put in 1937. That's before most people here were born, so. I guess it's due to
So most of the time they fail and FEMA money kicks in.
Pardon me?
I said, most of the time they fail and then FEMA money kicks in.
Yeah. Well, we just about had that in 2002 because there was a lot of debris.
Well, you got FEMA money now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it possible for us to put money away, and then if we're not gonna be using that money that's designated for bridge repair, then that can be moved wherever else we might need it? But in the future, I think we ought to be looking at to do something because, you know, everything goes to hell.
Well, and I'm gonna go back to about 10 years ago when we ratcheted the mill rate down. And I'm gonna bring that back because that took $200,000 out of our budget. And now we're trying to play catch up, and now we've got more problems coming up.
So is there money set aside 10 years ago for bridges?
Was there 10 years ago?
No.
No. Because at that point in time, see, on anything 60 inches or bigger for culverts, there we get a cost share to the county every other year. That helps us out a little bit.
So to replace any bridges 10 years ago, prior to the mill rate being lowered as you so stated?
Well, the one in 2002, that's not more than 10 years ago, we replaced the one on Stott South, right? And then the T, that one, that's, of course, that's county one. Any others, Russ, that you remember?
And one, pretty much it. Like I said, they kind of just sit there until blood.
Right, right.
Then you know if they're good or not.
Yeah, yeah. But they're subject to inspection, so that's, all I'm saying is, the Stott Avenue Bridge is, every year now, it's gonna be inspected.
I mean, you could have a brand new bridge, and if the water goes over the top of it, you're in trouble.
It's compromised.
If the water goes under it, they last a long time.
Yeah, it's compromised.
Well, what wrecks our bridges? The heavy traffic? Evidently, that must be the problem on Stott, or we wouldn't have posted it.
Oh, stop, well, that bridge.
Well, it was
That was
put in
1937.
That's what I'm saying.
The outside structure,
I think that bridge served us very well.
the outside structure, the outside steel is deteriorated because of salt use.
Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, Joe Berger. From your little report there, Dave, we're looking at an estimate of $600,000 for that bridge 5 years from now. Even if we assume that we're gonna have to spend maybe $100,000 if it goes up, we could do something where we'd start to put some money away. We'd only talk about $20,000 a year. We could have $100,000 in 5 years. So it's not supernatural,
It's not impossible to do.
huge monies that we're talking about.
Um,
And the other option there would be something that Rick was talking about, is we probably could borrow that kind of money if we didn't put it away, and you just have to pay it off at a later date instead of ahead of time. So there's a couple options there.
And the board will look into those. Ron?
The one on the stop there, during that flood, everybody says, well, the flood didn't do no damage. You always see what it did. It did a lot of damage on the banks.
Well, I think we're seeing that, we're still seeing the result of that. The FEMA guy told us at that point in time in 2002 that we're gonna see the results of this, ad infinitum. And we all know where the water went across Dodd, south of Elm and south of Cherry. And that, that was a fairly new paving project at that point in time. And it did, you can tell the results, and that's why we're getting the cracking, that's why we're getting the wedging. That's why we had to do some wedging on that portion of the road. So, it's up to you, I guess. You get the best bang for your buck. You got 16 cents that we contribute out of our taxes, and the board gets the best bang out of those bucks that they can. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Dave. Next item would be comments from the public. Anybody? Paul?
Yeah, Paul Mansell, M212 Man Street. Interesting reading the 5-year capital improvement program, or plan, I should say. How to fund some of those, there's some real aggressive numbers in here for, which I haven't seen. I've been in town for 9.5 years, lived here. I haven't seen any numbers like these as far as road projects and stuff are concerned. And MSA did come up with a bunch of different ways to fund these. One of them is listed as special assessments. Can anybody tell us what that might be?
I don't have it in front of me, so I don't know. Or Dave, do you know?
Which one are you referring to?
Well, for funding for all of these projects, special assessment is marked as a possibility for gaining funding. The only time I've ever heard that comment is when, like in the city of Marshfield, when they do paving and stuff, the property owner has to pay so much towards the stretch in front of their house and things like that.
And which one are you referring to? Where is it in the?
Well, all the projects are listed. It's actually all the road projects. You got Stott, Drake, Birch, Galvin, Mann.
Right.
And they're all listed here, that some of these funds, they're apparently going right for grants and loans or possibilities, things like that.
Right.
Page 11.
I was interested to if anybody had a definition of what special assessment was going to be.
I guess at that point, I don't know. Can't answer that.
We can all take a guess at it, but, that's about what it amounts to. I can't see going and saying, okay, we're gonna do your road, so we're gonna tax just the people that live on that road to pay for it. Because that's almost what it sounds like to me.
That's what they would do in the city. I mean, they
and I just
break it down into thirds.
It was interesting, and Paul, maybe you caught it in the News Herald here about a month ago. What does it cost for the average mile to upgrade in the city of Marshfield? Was it between $500,000 and $700,000 per mile, depending on how much infrastructure you got to put in it. And was that asphalt or was that cement? I don't recall.
I believe it was asphalt, but I think there were some of them, I don't know if it was a typical project or how they did it. Overlays, if they do overlays, they have concrete repairs to do first. They go in and get their sanitary and stuff done first.
No cheap fixes, just like anything else.
Any other comments?
I have one here on building projects that's been projected for the future.
Which one are you looking at, Larry?
I am looking on the 5-year plan.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. What do you?
It would be, one of them on page 9, I'll question that also. It says here, for 2015, the fire department is requesting a pressure washer for $5,000. Can you explain why a pressure washer costs $5,000 to replace?
Actually, we have actually already purchased it. It's basically a heated pressure washer. It uses kerosene to heat the water. The past unit basically went out about 6 months before. So with the gravel roads and stuff, we have to wash all that off, the salt, grease and stuff, so.
And then I see in 2018, and you and I talked about a generator, and that's gonna be $70,000 for a generator in 2018.
That is one estimate that we got, whether we go with that or not. It's, like I say, this is a plan or
Guide, it's
a
a
guide.
guide.
Well, we got numbers, and we gotta go by the guide.
Right, and out of the pressure washer, just so that everybody knows, the fire department, fall festival kicked in half. So it's
it only
not a
costs
full.
$2,500.
Right,
So that's just gonna be used for fire department use only? No private use or anything like that?
it may be used to wash some firefighters' vehicles, yes. Same as the other one, that's why they felt it was good to kick in.
And then you're-
The department needed.
And then you're also projecting a new truck in 2019 for $500,000?
I believe that is a new tanker chassis.
It says engine 10.
Could be, I don't have it in front of me either.
Yes,
Yeah, the tanker chassis is in 2017 for $75,000.
it's a guide, Larry, and they, there's the, when they sat down and did it, it's a crystal ball, what are you gonna need in the future is where it was laid out to us. What may we wanna replace, and this is what it was, so we put some numbers to it. It's only a guide, and it may or may not happen, depending on budget constraints.
Does that adjust your budget then when you proceed with these numbers then?
Well, we're looking at a capital outlay for a truck, truck replacement, we've got a 2002, I believe it is. And that's in the budget, we've got, what is the CD at, 60,000?
I believe it is.
Should be in the back of the sheet.
Public Works, 40,000.
No, the CD, what's in the CD, yeah.
Just a second. It's $60,137.51.
And our best estimate at this point in time is that it's probably about half what the truck will cost.
Now, a number, let's say 2-3 years, maybe 2 years ago, when Jeff Engel was still on the board, there was a proposal made and accepted by the town board, a motion to put X amount of dollars away each year for new equipment, new trucks. Is that how you're gonna proceed with this also? You're still gonna put X amount of dollars in a fund for new trucks, for new equipment?
That's the reason for that CD.
That's the plan if it works. It depends if we have a disaster somewhere along the line or if something has to be taken care of. You just never know. I mean, they call that, capital improvement plan, a wish list is what they told us. So it's kind of what we're going by. We're hoping we can. We don't know if we can.
All right, and then I'll back to page 7 on the 5-year plan here. I see in 2018, we're speculating a new town hall for $500,000, is that correct?
Well, not really. What we're gonna have to do is either come up with a plan to repair this building and see what the cost is going to be, or possibly build a different one. We don't know. We don't know which is gonna be most cost efficient. They came up with that number and I just about fell off my chair, because I thought that was a little out of line, but that's what they put in there, so. And they were figuring how many square feet on that?
4,000.
Yeah, to me, that's
Yeah,
really much.
$125 a square foot, that figures out to 4,000 square feet.
Yeah, like I said, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do here first and see what's gonna be most either economical or what do we need. You know, there's mold coming in the walls in the back office over there. We gotta figure out, get the water away from the building. That's not helping matters at all. We're gonna need a new roof coming up here. So by the time you put all that money into it, and no, I can't see spending 500,000 for a new town hall. I don't think we need to go quite that extravagant, so.
Oh, and then, just a question, I know, I see you've got designated $10,000 for a new gazebo up here to the.
That we're gonna be doing this summer. We've had some requests to put a gazebo in, so we're gonna be putting one in between the ballpark and the playground area.
How much of that money has been donated?
None.
So that comes out of the park budget?
Well, it's been, we had, how did that work, Dave? We had some money that was in, like, the building fund, then it got transferred to the highway, and now it got transferred back to the park. So that's what we're gonna be using for that. It's tax dollars that we're going to be putting in there, and it's taxpayers that have been requesting to put a gazebo in, so.
Part of that came from that building CD that when we didn't complete the rest of it.
Right.
And we just reskinned the old garage.
How big is the gazebo gonna be?
I'm guessing around 15, 16 feet. Pardon?
Not real big, just
No, it's not gonna be huge by no means.
aesthetically,
Yeah.
they hold weddings out there.
Well, that's what I think they're requesting it for. So, because there's supposed to be a wedding coming up this August, and she asked if we had a gazebo, and I said, I don't think it'll be done. But that's what we're looking at right
Charge
now.
extra for the weddings, right?
Sure.
So is there any be volunteer work on any of these projects?
Did you want to?
Are you gonna help?
I got one last, well, we redid the sand and everything else. I was out here almost every day, so. Are you volunteering?
For the thing in our,
I put it in the News Herald, any suggestions or whatever that,
yeah.
so I did do that.
Oh, and another thing, with the News Herald, you know, every month they post the meetings that are for the county. They do the county ones, they do Wood County, and, you know, why won't McMillan ever get them in on the schedule?
Oh, for the
Yeah, the
daily help?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've asked before.
Uh-huh. I'll put that up for
Spencer
advice.
puts theirs in, Stratford puts theirs in.
But that doesn't work for you?
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? Gary?
Rod did say that that steam cleaner was gonna be used by them on their personal vehicles also. It was my understanding a few years ago that there wasn't supposed to be any personal vehicle work done in that fire station anymore.
That's right.
And they're not supposed to be parking in the buildings either.
Which buildings are you talking, what are you talking about?
Well, like Pat isn't supposed to be parking his vehicle in the garage.
So if you're gonna use that to take care of personal vehicles, does that mean town residents can come and use it also because it's taxpayers' dollars that pay for it?
You wanna volunteer for the fire department?
That's not what I'm saying.
We're all paying the insurance. I would think, you know, insurance liability. You know, I
I mean,
mean,
that
we
question
have to
I'm
cover
waiting
the
for
fire
the
trucks.
answer.
See,
But we don't cover
the ones that are using it
their own
are the
vehicles.
ones that are on the fire department.
So I
So
don't
it is fire
think
department
they should be in
members.
Paid
It has
for by-
always been that way.
Paid for by taxpayers' dollars.
Something there.
Still paid for by taxpayers' dollars, no matter if it's 10 cents or 10 dollars.
We don't get paid for rig checks, monthly meetings. None of that's paid for, that's all volunteer.
So
So it's a little kickback, little
Why do you
benefit.
need kickbacks? We'll get kickbacks.
Bad word.
So if the volunteers would be nice then.
When has this township got that chintzy that you gotta worry about something so Mickey Mouse like that?
Exactly.
Makes no sense to me, that's like parking in the buildings, who cares?
That's
There's
because
I know a few years ago, they
Lower
got
the
all
mill
worked up
rate.
about it, and to me, that's chintzy, it's heavy.
Very good.
There's a huge liability issue.
Yes.
If somebody gets hurt.
Still liability getting out of bed in the morning too, Jerry, I mean, what the hell?
If somebody gets hurt while they're working on their own vehicle.
Yeah, why do we, you know, why do you wanna be petty about this? Who cares? These guys are-
Taxpayers'
these guys-
dollars. That's who should care, are the taxpayers.
I'm a taxpayer also, I'm not that petty.
We don't care then.
Paul?
I remember last fall, you were talking about the replacement of the concrete and stuff. Is that going to be done this year?
We don't know yet. We did get some prices last year, and I think it was around 11 or 12,000, wasn't it, Joe? Something like that. And then they just wanted to kind of put it on hold because then they found mold in the back room over here. So we're gonna have to take a complete look at all of it and see where we're sitting. So, Mr. Bruce, you had a question before?
That's okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay, then we can go ahead and we can set next year's meeting date. Tentative Tuesday, April 19th, 2016. Do we need a motion on that?
I got a question. Have we ever thought about, originally the town board meetings, the annual meetings used to be on a Saturday.
Okay.
Maybe we would get more people to come out on a Saturday?
Well, you guys are setting a date, so.
Who come on a Saturday?
There's actually only a small time frame that you can hold
Yeah,
this
right.
meeting.
Mhm.
I'm not exactly sure what it is, but you're strongly encouraged to do it on the third Tuesday of April.
This was right after the elections and all that
Yeah.
good stuff. And
Yeah. And then there's a small window, if you don't wanna do it that day, that you can do it, so.
Right?
Make a motion, we have it on the 19th of April, 2016.
You want a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Could it be like 6 o'clock?
Yeah, they'll set the time next year on that. There's no really no time, it's just a date that we have to get set. Can we take a vote on that? The motion's been made to set the next year's meeting date to Tuesday, April 19th, 2016. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passed. We do have announcements to make. The board of review is going to be Tuesday, June 2nd, from 5 to 7, and open book will be from 7 to 9 for board of review. Any other questions, comments, issues? Anything going once?
I got a question. You know, they got the calendar listed on the Macmillan News site.
Mm-hmm.
Could they like put them dates, you know, like the meeting was tonight, the date and time on there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
Along
probably
with
can.
some of these other, you know, they have a few things listed on there.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to that point. For the website, I just
I know that's a
sent
work in
out,
progress.
just sent Rod's email over to John so that he'll be, did you get my email?
Yes.
Okay. He'll be getting a hold of you to get the fire department end of it set up. So it's gonna be a slow process, but we do have something up, not all updated by no means, but it will get there. So, anything else? Anything? Need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Gary,
I'll make the
second?
motion.
Dorothy? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.
Because there are things that can be.
Oh, yeah,
Silver shiny things, you wouldn't have gone that far. Although, is that up there? Wait.
and then you're right, the village and I
Yeah.